I wanted to take this opportunity to give you a few tips and give you some suggestions on how to be the most successful in my chemistry class. And it's a good time of year because had a couple of units under our belt, and it kind of gives us a chance to just pay attention and kind of figure out. So you just need to kind of sit back and listen. There isn't anything to write down. It's just things I can share with you at this point to be successful. And the first thing is to remind ourselves or define the fact that I do run what's called a flipped classroom. In the flipped classroom, you guys do lessons at home via video. Okay, and then you fill in your notes. And then in class, what that allows us to do is for you guys to develop a better understanding of concepts, more applications, and then more importantly, that you can ask me questions when you get stuck. Okay, as opposed to a traditional classroom where I instruct and you take notes, and then you're left to do most of the tough stuff as homework. Okay, so this is why I've chosen to run a flipped classroom. Honestly, it has worked pretty well for chemistry up to this point, I think. Now, what does that mean in practicality's sake? Well, homework is typically watching a video that introduces a topic or having you review information for a test or a quiz. So again, the things I'm asking you to do outside of class are very purposeful and they're very doable. Okay? Purposeful. Purposeful meaning if I'm having you watch a video, I'm trying to introduce a topic, or you need to review. You need to spend time going over that information. They're also very doable, meaning that they're things you can accomplish successfully. They are a good use of your time. I'm not sending you home with 37 problems to do to try to figure out when I'm not there and there's no one to support you. But what that means is that you must bring your brain and be ready to think every day in class. Chemistry is not a spectator sport where you just sit there and it gets fed to you. Okay, you have to be able to bring it. We do the passive stuff outside of class and so that we can think on a pretty regular basis, which I know is a struggle and is different than a lot of other scenarios. Why is chemistry so hard? Well, I've got a couple of illustrations to kind of show you why chemistry is a little bit more difficult than some of your other typical classes. And the first one is I want to go to what's called a depth of knowledge chart. A depth of knowledge chart gives you some examples over here of key terms. Okay, there are 4 levels. You've got level 1, which is recall, level 2, which is skills concepts, level 3, which is strategic thinking, and level 4, which is extended thinking. Now, the recall questions are the ones we usually like the best. They're things like define this. Who, what, when, where, why. Okay? Repeat this. List, label. Very what we refer to as low-level type information questions. And honestly, a lot of Unit 1, which was a lot of definition stuff, fell into level 1 recall questions. Now, when you get to level 2, you step up just a little bit. We start to do things like classify, separate, cause and effect, interpret, make observations, compare, and we did some of this in Unit 1 as well, but that was about as far as Unit 1 went. Okay, now Unit 2, if you remember, was a lot of math, so we still had a lot of recall, right? What is this? What is that? Etc. And then we got to level 2 where we were doing things like, summarize, solve math problems, and modify. But really when we get to Unit 3 and beyond, we really spend a lot of our time in this part of the thought process. Okay, we have to do a lot of things like investigate, differentiate, critique, analyze, synthesize, connect, apply concepts. This is where we spend a lot of the rest of the year in chemistry, which is part of the reason why it's so difficult and part of the reason why I've chosen to run the class this way. Now, the vocabulary is still important. You still have to have that level 1 recall of vocab, which is part of the reason we have a vocab quiz every section. We still have to be able to do the other things, but chemistry involves a lot of this critical thinking piece, which is more difficult and therefore takes a different style of thought in order to be successful. Now, the other little chart that I have here is what's called Bloom's taxonomy, and you may have heard about this one before. It's also, again, just another chart that kind of attempts to define how we think. And really what we've done with the flipped classroom is in a flipped classroom, we've made the independent work the basic intro or the basic knowledge recall going over things, and it's allowed more time, class time, for things like application, which is labs, some of the practical math problems that force you to analyze, synthesize, and evaluate the information. And that's really the whole premise of the flipped classroom and why chemistry is so difficult. And more importantly, why is chemistry so hard? You have to think about it. You have to. You can. It is not passive. Those connections are crucial to being successful in chemistry. And so the other thing that I thought I would do is just give you some tips that I think are going to be very helpful for those of you that are trying to figure out, how do I do better, or how do I raise my grade? And the first one is to make sure that you are actively watching the videos. Now, I do ask you to take notes. I ask you to usually have some type of product that shows, but actively watching the videos means actually listening to the audio and processing the information, and also writing down any additional questions. Hopefully we know by now that if you have a question, you need to ask me. Okay, so if you come in the next day and you don't understand something, you jot that down and you ask. One of the downsides to the flipped classroom is that there isn't a teacher available if you have a question. However, you see me on a very, very, very regular basis, and so we can get those questions asked. Third, you have to come to class ready to think. Okay, if it wants to be passive, it's going to be more difficult for you. So know that when you're in here during this time, those are the things that we have to do a little bit. The other piece to this, which I think is really important, is that you need to spend a little bit of time every day going over your notes, practice problems, study guides, Quizlet, etc. Whatever ways that you know you learn best, you need to spend a little bit of time with it every day. Because in order to make those connection pieces and make all the critical thinking and the higher order thinking things work, you can't be spending time memorizing the content the night before the test. Okay, it just isn't going to work. And again, for those of you that are looking at, well, how do I do better and how do I succeed? This is the pathway of how to get there, okay? Now, since we talk about relationships in chemistry, I thought I'd draw you a little graph and incorporate some of the, let me see here, some of our relationships that we've been talking about, because I can tell you that for most of you, the time you spend studying outside of class, time spent, is going to be directly related to the grade in your class. So if you want that A versus that D or that F, you've got to spend some more time studying. Okay, that whole direct relationship, as the time spent goes up, your grade is going to go up as well. Okay, and that's the biggest thing and it's not hours and hours on end. It's a little bit of time every single night going through that information. And if you're not willing to do that, then you're not going to see this grade go up very much. And that's just the nature of the beast, honestly, at this point. So, a few other things. Number one, access resources that may help you be a more successful student. And what I have done, and it should be on all of your My Big Campuses at this point, is I've put a new learning bundle on My Big Campus, and I'm going to show you where it is. If you go to My Big Campus and you go into the resources tab, and this will be for every class, not just my 3G class. You go under resources and you go to learning bundles. Okay, this is where we should see all of our content learning bundles as well. So in My Big Campus, resources, learning bundles. You've got Unit 1, Unit 2, Unit 3, Unit 4. There's a new one that says Mrs. Nixon Study Skills and Strategies. And this learning bundle has several different things. I know that chemistry is hard. I know studying is hard. And it pretty much consists of two major things. Number one is going to be a website that is the indiana.gov Learn More website, Learn More Indiana. And some of you may have seen this before, but this is an awesome website. And if you go to the K-12 section right here, there are some awesome resources on how people learn and learning styles and trying to help you figure things out. For example, the preparing piece is what I'm really important on right now. How do you succeed in school? And more importantly, understanding your learning style. We all learn differently, and there are a couple of different learning style assessments, or actually this top one really breaks it down even further than just the visual, audio, and kinesthetic that we've talked about in class. Okay, so that's the first part. The second part is there are several Word documents that have different strategies. Okay, active reading, which we've talked about, note note-taking tips, the Cornell system, which we've gone through, and there's a few others like improving concentration, how to improve your studying, time management, test anxiety, and etc. And I want to focus on two of those that I've already downloaded. The first one is how to improve your studying. It's really simple strategies. Again, when to study. Do not wait until the night before an exam. Studying to retain knowledge is a long process. What you should do every day. They give you lots of suggestions on this page of how to be successful in terms of, don't just memorize. That's that whole piece that you have to understand. You also have to figure out what you need to learn. Where are you going to put all your eggs in the basket, so to speak? You'd also need to know how you review the best. Okay, you have to figure out how you learn, and this document just has some different strategies of how you can improve your studying if you're not really sure how you learn. Some of you are rock solid on this. You know what it takes for you to learn, you know what it takes for you to be successful, and you're in a good place. Others of us just needs a little more work. And the other point that I want to focus on is test anxiety. I know a lot of us get really nervous when it comes to testing, myself included. Okay, and so this document kind of outlines test anxiety a little bit. It just talks about that kind of that nervous feeling and how it affects you. What are the causes? Usually there's a real reason. Maybe you've had a past experience of blanking out. You've been unable to retrieve information. It could just be that you didn't study and so you're nervous. So this lists out some different things, some different types of test anxiety, and more importantly also some relaxation techniques. Okay, we can all benefit from this stuff. There are some short-term and some long-term relaxation techniques you can do. A lot of it is just deep breathing and just trying to relax and trying to control your emotions as best you can. And it goes into some more detail. So, for all of these things, there's a lot of detail in here, and some of this may pertain to some of you, and some of you may go, well, I don't even need to know that. I am good, and that is great for you. But if you need help with this stuff, communicate with me. There are some awesome things out there. This is a start. It's one place, but there's more out there as well. A couple of other things just to kind of finish up on is also remember there's peer tutoring or a formal tutor, or ask me for help. I have to be here every day at 7:30. Okay, a.m. Sometimes I have a meeting, sometimes not, but if you need me, I can help. In class, I can help. If you don't ask me and you just think it's going to be stuck in your brain, good luck with that. Okay, so again, I just wanted to give you some tips for success and some strategies for how you can improve on things. And if anything comes up, please let me know. And hopefully we'll continue on this journey of learning chemistry successfully.